Meghan is a woman of huge ambition and total ruthlessness on her terms. Why she is so selfish is bizarre. She wanted to be the star, and of course she failed.
Tell us about Harry and Meghan's relationship.
He needs her because he's a lonely, sad man, and she needs the label. She's an agent of destruction. She did in the Oprah Winfrey interview what she said against the royal family, what she said against Britain. I don't forgive her for that. She is a breaker of relationships because Meghan in the end is only interested in one person. And that certainly isn't the royal family.
How do you feel about them accusing you of deranged conspiracy?
They can't take it that somebody can criticize them, that someone can question them. Tells the story they do not want told, which is the truth. Andrew screamed across the room at him, "What are you cripple doing coming to and interrupting me?"
Wow.
I mean, that was unbelievable. And that is the way that Andrew behaved.
So how did Andrew's friendship with Epstein manage to go ignored for so long by the royal family?
Well,
hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi and this is author Tom Bauer, the author of Betrayal. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
pleasure.
First question, I'm going to get straight into it, no messing around. Tell us about Harry and Meghan's relationship, because I've heard rumours and reports of them arguing lots, and also about Harry apparently staying in hotels.
Well, the nub of it is whether they're going to divorce or not, and I don't believe they are. And I think, there are tensions in relationships, but I think that in the end, he needs her, she needs him, and it's a relationship based on a good business understanding. And so I'm not of those who think that they're about to in any way break up. I think that on the whole, he needs her because he's a lonely, sad man, and she needs the label. And I don't think there's some unbelievably rich billionaire in California desperate to take on Meghan and all her baggage.
Yeah.
So I don't think her exit would be smooth.
Okay. Well, speaking of breakups, what's going on between them and Netflix? Is this a similar deal to Spotify, the disaster there, and them being grifters and too lazy to work with?
No, I think the Netflix deal was obviously lucrative, hugely lucrative, and it went wrong because they have nothing to offer. The problem with Meghan and Harry is that they're a one-horse race. I mean, they've got a great story about why they left the royal family. There are lots of lies about what happened in that relationship. But once that was told, they had nothing new. And Meghan is a woman of huge ambition and total ruthlessness on her terms. But she is a woman without much talent. She's not a great actress. She has no mystery. She tries to cultivate a persona or an image, and it doesn't particularly work for long. And they had a great shot at all sorts of things. The series on polo, her series on being a domestic goddess as ever. Also, she had another series about lifestyle. It didn't work because she really is pretty empty, other than that she has this amazing title and has always got the threat of destroying the British royal family, and that's what makes her so interesting to us.
Well, you say they've got a good business relationship. What are their finances saying? Because another rumour that flies around is that they're rapidly burning through their cash and they don't know how they're going to keep on funding this lavish lifestyle.
Well, I think that is absolutely true. I mean, I raised that more than 2 years ago, that once the Netflix deal expired, which I knew it would, that they really have a huge financial problem because their lifestyle costs them a minimum after tax of £3 million a year. And although they've got the money now, Meghan is a woman who's very, very conscious of money because of her childhood and everything, and therefore is terrified and needs to build the brand. And the Netflix deal fell apart because they had nothing new to offer, as ever was a failure. I think they put all the effort they could into making it successful. But in the end, Meghan had nothing to offer other than smiling with a lot of non-entities and offering recipes which were just ridiculous. And her ideas were ridiculous. And that's their problem. All they could do, as they showed in this Australian tour, is moan about the royal family, moan about their victimhood, somehow try to look glamorous and royal. But it's got to have to come to an end. I think that's what's so interesting. There's got to be an end.
Okay. Now, you say in your book as well that Kate, or Catherine, as I'm supposed to call her now, Catherine saw Meghan as a threat.
Yes, I think that's right.
Well, why?
Well, because I think that Meghan has a lot of qualities which Catherine or Kate doesn't have. First of all, she's self-made. I think she's clearly well-educated. She's ambitious. She's worked hard. She's achieved on her own terms quite a bit, although not on global terms. And I think that she has a ruthlessness which threatened Catherine or Kate. I think that she wasn't going to put up with curtsying to the future Queen. She wasn't going to fit in with their lifestyle. Kate could see quite immediately that Meghan was furious that they were living in a small house in Kensington Palace compared to the sumptuous 20 rooms occupied by the then Cambridges. And also, Meghan had great style. She had clothing style, she had appearance style, which Kate didn't have, or which she then quickly employed experts to change her appearance. And I think that was a threat. And I think the biggest threat of all was that Meghan thought that she should be the future Queen. And that clearly was not going to happen. But that really meant a lot to Kate, that there was this rival across the corridor who wasn't going to be content with being lower in the pecking order.
And what does William think about Meghan?
I think he thinks she's dreadful. And she has behaved dreadfully. I think that he saw her as an ambitious opportunist, a woman of absolutely no substance other than being a hussy from Hollywood. And this was something he wasn't going to put up with. And he could see how she'd manipulated Harry, which of course she did brilliantly. He could see how she wasn't going to be loyal to the royal family. She had no intention whatsoever of opening hospitals in Stockport or standing on a cold day in Colchester. And he saw exactly what was going to happen. And of course it did. And William, to his credit, tried to warn William that it wasn't going to work.
Harry, yeah.
To warn Harry that it wasn't going to work. And Harry didn't take the advice because Harry was caught. He was determined to marry Meghan for his own reasons.
Do you think there's any part of this where actually Meghan isn't that bad? And it's like a narrative I see painted onto women all the time. You know, a mother has a son marries a girl, and suddenly it's the girl's fault for everything. Oh, well, Harry wasn't like this before, and this woman's connived and she's changed him. Maybe Meghan's just given Harry the confidence to be his own man now and do what he wants to do instead of having to toe the firm's line.
No, I think that's true. I think that she did exactly that. She gave Harry the confidence and the safety net to be his own man and not be part of the firm. But on the other hand, if you look at her treatment of her own father, of her first husband, of many of her friends, she is quite ruthless in dropping and dumping people and then very publicly castigating them without any truth at all. So I think you can say both things, that she has turned Harry against his family, there's no doubt about that, in a very vicious way, and predictable, because if you remember, Samantha Markle, her half-sister, predicted before the wedding that Meghan would break up the family, just as she'd broken up her own family. I mean, she is a breaker of relationships, because Meghan in the end is only interested in one person. And that certainly isn't the royal family.
Do you think it's fair when people call Meghan a narcissist? Is that
I think that's so true, and it's an understatement.
Understatement.
Well, I think that she's much more than that. I mean, she is. I mean, it's just as you said in Australia. I've been campaigning for women all my life. Now I'm campaigning for myself. I mean, it's all ridiculous. She never campaigned for women. She always campaigned for herself. But there's a selfishness there. Why she is so selfish when she is so blessed with such luxury and privileges now is bizarre. But in the end, it's because she's dissatisfied. You know, her father, who is a good man, and she's treated appallingly, told me of this instance when she was 5 years old, and you know he was a very successful lighting director in Hollywood, and he took her down the red carpet on some opening night, and she said, "Daddy, I want to do this. I want to be the star." And that was it. She wanted to be the star, and of course she failed. She failed on her own terms because the highest she got was Suits, which was, you know, a small program, nothing very important, but then became the star by getting married to Harry, a global star. And instead of being happy with that and taking the terms, she was determined everything had to be on her terms. And that was worse than narcissism. That was destructive. She's an agent of destruction, and that's what I don't forgive her for that, because what she did in the Oprah Winfrey interview, what she said against the royal family, what she said against Britain, everything was just so unfair and wrong. And it was really a dreadful thing what she did and continues to do.
Okay. Now, what about Harry and William? Are they truly brothers at war?
Sadly. I think that great relationship, support after Diana died, William helping Harry to try to come to terms not only with the death of Diana, but also post-traumatic syndrome after serving in Afghanistan, which affects many people when you see death and all the rest of it. I think William did his very, very best to help Harry. But Harry, you know, one thing I remember about Harry is this extraordinary story about when they're at Eton. And one boy says to Harry, you know, Harry, it's terrible. The exams have come out, the results have come out, and I'm bottom of the class. And Harry says, well, I'm bottom of the school. And you must never overestimate Harry's limited intellect. And instead of seeing William as an ally, he saw him as a rival. He was always jealous that William would be king one day and not himself. And he couldn't come to terms with that.
Okay. How do you feel about Harry and Meghan in response to your book, Betrayal? And it's a fantastic read, might I add. How do you feel about them accusing you of deranged conspiracy? That's the wording they used.
They did a lot more. I mean, I think of course they said all that, the damnation, before the book was even published, which is always very encouraging. Although I mean, Harry can't read a book, never has, and I don't think Meghan reads many books either. But what I take from it is this: that the thing about Harry and Meghan is they think only their narrative, only their story should be accepted. They can't take it that somebody could criticize them, that someone can question them. And whenever she gives interviews, or he does, they always carefully choose the interviewer in the expectation that their version will be accepted uncritically. It goes wrong for her more recently than not. But they can't stand it that I am, in the end, the biographer, now 2 biographies. Betrayal is a #1 bestseller, sold all over the world, and tells a story they do not want told, which is the truth. And that's what they can't cope with. And the truth is that they really are a sad couple in many ways, desperate in many ways, eager somehow to try and find a way they can navigate over the next 50 years, and find it difficult to find a way over the next 5 years.
Wow. You also wrote in the book that Harry was shocked by Andrew's downfall and his loss of titles. Do you think Harry's worried that once William gets to be king, he's going to have his title stripped and his kids' titles too?
Absolutely. I think that was a great, great shock to Harry. I know it was a shock. Because if you remember, everyone said that Andrew could not be stripped of his titles without an act of parliament and all sorts of procedures across the whole Commonwealth. But in fact, they just fudged the Constitution and said, well, letters patent will do, which is ridiculous. But it did the trick.
Yeah.
And I think that William and even King Charles now, after watching the couple in Australia, will now be to seriously think, can we afford the risk to the monarchy by this couple selling the royal titles and using it for their commercial benefit? So I think Harry rightly is worried that once William becomes king, Charles won't do it, of course, but once William becomes king, he'll remove the problem completely by removing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex title and also Harry's Prince title and the children's titles.
Oh, that'd be quite the blow for him. You described Harry's Invictus Games as the Meghan Games.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I was quite surprised. I mean, the idea and the execution of Invictus Games is terrific. I mean, these are men and women who've sacrificed life and limb in many ways for their country. and they're being rewarded and being glorified, and rightly so, and being given an opportunity with their families at the Invictus Games of competing and being part of the Invictus family.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, and
It is.
it's wonderful. But I went to Vancouver to watch the last games, and with believing it would be a wonderful experience, and I thought it was a rather unhappy experience, because two things. There are no spectators. No one comes to watch them, except the opening day and the closing day, when they have a huge pop concert. And so they had Kate Perry there, and they had some other gig on the last day, and then the auditorium was packed. But more importantly, on the first days, it's Meghan. Everyone wants to see what Meghan will wear, what Meghan will say, what Meghan will how she'll behave, and of course the kiss which she gave Harry in the front of everyone in that stadium was so contrived. I watched it and thought, there she is, the great actress, or the bad actress, whichever way you take it. And she loved the performance. And even he was surprised by it. And so the moment she then went back to Montecito in California, because she had some crisis with her TV series, all the coverage stopped. No one was interested in the games. No one was interested in Harry. The media disappeared. The coverage in a few newspapers disappeared because it's Meghan. And that, of course, is what it's all about. We'll get on to it perhaps, about the Invictus Games, the forthcoming ones in Birmingham.
Well, hang on. If it's all about Meghan, surely that's a good thing then, that she is making a show of herself and being performative, so people can... more attention can be put onto the games as a whole.
Well, they're not. That's the trouble. I mean, I went to various competitions, and the one I highlighted in my book was the basketball team between America and Nigeria. Nigeria, as my book shows, is a very special part of this last Meghan's story, because they went there on this sort of pseudo-royal tour. And the Nigerian team was trounced 24-0. by a professionally trained American team.
Yeah.
But what was extraordinary was, first of all, that the venue, which had a capacity of around 2,500 people, there were around about 40, 50 spectators. And more importantly, after the match, when the American team wheeled themselves off into a closed area, they all got up and walked away. Not one of them had a physical injury. Now,
What?
I thought that was pretty amazing, because when you see the images and the propaganda, it's always limbless ex-soldiers competing, but not a bit of it. And I thought that was appalling. Now, the Nigerian team, I think one man had a prosthetic leg, but they were trounced because they just couldn't beat this American team, who were, as I say, professionally trained. And so the whole thing is uneven.
Right.
And I just felt not genuine. But then you looked at Meghan and Harry amongst the audience. They were seated in the middle of 100 people, specially invited, packed into a small area.
Yeah.
So the viewer had the thought it was very, very full, and artificially fed in cheers and things. So I thought the whole thing was, it was inauthentic, to say the least.
And next year, Invictus Games will be in Birmingham.
Well, I mean, and that is fascinating, because in Vancouver, which is beginning of last year, Birmingham was already settled. He'd been offered Washington, but he chose Birmingham for one particular reason. It was to get reconciliation with the King. Okay. It was, the whole point of it was that he hoped King Charles and Camilla would turn up, and it meant the re-entry of Meghan and Harry into the royal family, revalidate them as royals, so they could continue their commercialization of their titles. And he's coming in July for a trial, the rehearsals.
Yeah.
And he'd hoped, of course, to be seeing King Charles at the same time. I think the Australian trip has now put a kibosh on that. But he's got another major problem, which he couldn't have anticipated, which is, as you remember, the whole Birmingham saga when Aston Villa were playing Maccabi Tel Aviv, and Israelis were not allowed to come, Jews were not allowed to come to Birmingham. Well, the IDF competes in the Invictus Games. Right. There'll be a team from Israel, but soldiers wounded in Gaza and Lebanon. So the idea that the local Muslim Islamic community will allow them to compete is going to cause Harry and the Invictus Games huge problems.
Yes.
And so he's walking into a controversy on two levels. The king, and secondly, the games themselves.
Gosh, so you think the local Muslim population are going to tell Harry, you're not having your games here anymore?
Well, they'll tell the police, just like they did with the football thing. It's not Muslims, it's Islamists. I mean, the extremists.
Okay, yeah.
And they're vicious, they're vicious, they're determined, they're very, very anti-Semitic, and they won't allow an IDF team to compete. And that is going to be a huge problem. And you can be absolutely sure the king will not want to be part of that sort of controversy.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So you don't think there's a chance that King Charles will just pop in for 5 minutes, say hello, smile for the cameras, shake his son's hand, and then jump back in the Rolls Royce?
I don't.
No?
I don't. Not least because of what we've discussed, but also because I think William will forbid it. I think William's role in all this is pretty critical.
Okay.
I mean, he wants to have a smooth transition. He wants to change the monarchy, understandably. He wants to modernize it. He needs to appeal to young people and all the other things. He doesn't want to be involved in more controversy, especially to benefit Harry and Meghan.
Well, what is Harry's relationship like currently with King Charles?
I always think distant. I mean, I think that Charles, understandably, would like a better relationship with his son and his grandchildren. I think Charles does feel a guilt for how Harry was treated after the divorce and even after Diana's death, because he was very much an absent father. But on the other hand, Harry is now 40, he can get on with life. King Charles had his own problems, had his own responsibilities. Harry had a very privileged upbringing, much better than other children who lose their mothers. It's awful, but it's not unique. And I think the king feels that Harry has behaved appallingly. He's been unbelievably disloyal. In part of my book, I tell the story of writing of Spare, his autobiography, filled with hatred and nasty stories about the king and William and Queen Camilla, and how that all evolved in the writing of the book, which is itself a fascinating story. And Harry had absolutely, not only did Harry author a lot of this stuff, this vicious poison, but he even read it for the audio version. So the idea that he hadn't read his own book is thrown out, which often happens for celebrities. But he actually endorsed it. And it was shocking. So I think that quite rightly, the king and William feel very betrayed, which is, of course, the title of the book, because they have been betrayed.
Well, tell me about Meghan's jam. I hear about this jam all the flipping time. Is it selling? Is it not selling? Do Netflix have a huge warehouse that never ends full of this jam?
Well, I found the jam story fascinating because, of course, the way she presented it, she picked the strawberries in her garden, made the jam in her own kitchen with Lilibet, her daughter, standing next to her saying beautiful, and then bottled each jar with loving care. Well, not a bit of it, of course. It was made in a factory in Illinois, 1,500 miles from California. It's not jam, it's spread because it's so thin. And, of course, it's nothing to do with her strawberries. And, of course, they hardly sold any of it. But I must tell you, what's fascinating about the jam story is that I spent a lot of time and a lot of money trying to track down, firstly, where the jam was made, and secondly, who produced the jars, because there's a distinctive jar. But she is so careful about controlling the narrative that even the jam makers had to sign non-disclosure agreements to protect the secrets of Meghan's jam. And then, of course, they couldn't sell the stuff at that ludicrous price. So she very successfully put out a story that they sold 27 million jars of this stuff. Well, I rang Waitrose to see how many jars they sell of their jam, and it's not 27 million. So the idea they were outsold by Meghan is pretty ludicrous.
What's the deal with Meghan's Hollywood mates? They seem to have all disappeared. Oprah Winfrey, I guess even Katy Perry, all these people who surrounded themselves with her when they first moved to Montecito, they're nowhere to be seen anymore.
Well, I think they do see them, but I think what they do is they say no photographs. They say no publicity. I think that, they are neighbours, but it's that they don't want to be used anymore. So I think the truth is there'll be the occasion at a party and things like that. But I mean, it's always the same in Hollywood. You must have experienced it. People are always looking over your shoulder to see who's more important. And they'll be looking over Meghan's shoulder because she's so unimportant now.
Yeah.
She's no longer a royal. She's a sort of a B-list celebrity. And she misbehaved terribly when she went to that party the Kardashian party, where she then insisted on having the photographs removed.
Yeah.
You know, she only thinks of herself. She doesn't see the broader picture. So, you know, I think that's what it really is. People are more cautious.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Andrew. I almost called him Prince Andrew then. Yeah.
That would be simple. Head chopped off.
So how did Andrew's friendship with Epstein manage to go ignored for so long by the royal family?
Well, was it ignored, or did they what could they do? And, you know, the royal family all work in silos. A lot depends on their senior officials. They're the ones knowing what's happening in the other buildings, the other palaces.
Okay.
They're the ones who manage the coordination. And what was very, very important in all this saga, which people have forgotten, is there's one man who knew exactly what Andrew was doing in the dangers, was the Queen's private secretary, a man called Christopher Geit. And Geit warned the Queen that this was a danger. And Andrew and Charles for his own reasons, conspired to get Geit fired.
Wow.
And the Queen fired him soon after Prince Philip's death. And that, in the end, limited the understanding, the knowledge of the royal household. And that was a terrible, terrible blunder to have occurred. And, of course, that meant it was uncontrolled. But the other thing as well is, one of the weaknesses of King Charles is that he doesn't like being told no. In fact, if you say no to King Charles, that's the last thing you ever say because he fires you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, totally. And so people don't want to give him advice that he's not going to welcome.
Okay.
And he would have been advised to limit Andrew's activities. But the problem is that Andrew had some dirt on Charles. Very hard also to tell your brother what to do. And King Charles doesn't like confrontation. So everything conspired against managing the problem properly.
What dirt did Andrew have on King Charles?
Well, I wrote a book called Rebel Prince, which was about Prince Charles. He absolutely loathes me. In fact, you're the only person in the world who seems to like me. But the thing about Charles is he sold access to himself at his charity lunches and dinners to pay for his charities like the Dumfries House and the Prince's Trust and that. And there was a man called Higden, and then, of course, there was Michael Fawcett, who were taking money on the side. It was all very, very corrupt and very, very difficult, and deals were done which were not proper.
Okay.
And Charles has a strange relationship with money. And so it was easy for Andrew to say pottle and kettle and black.
Yeah.
To say, you know, don't start challenging me about my company.
Yeah.
Because Prince Charles had been mixing with unedifying people too. And that made it very difficult for the king to bring his brother to heel.
Well, so would you say the royal family covered it up? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. So
they hoped it would go away, like so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very difficult, as we've seen, whether it was with Diana's fate or whoever, to actually anticipate and control it. Because these are people, and Harry, of course, is a prime example, who don't understand no. Who don't like taking unpleasant advice. That's why they're so angry with my book, because I'm writing about things they don't want written. They can't. They want to control what is said about them, and anyone who doesn't say what they want them to say is the enemy. So it's very difficult to actually see a way to solve their problems easily.
Well, apparently, I hear Andrew is now sat around in his underpants playing a computer game, Call of Duty all day, and that's what he gets up to. That's how he's filling his time. Have you heard anything like this?
Well, I mean, his exile in Sandringham is like exile in Siberia, except it's not freezing cold, and he's fed, and doesn't have to do slave labor. Yeah. So, of course, I mean, he actually has to disappear. So, of course, I mean, the real problem is, that his sanity is an issue, which is why, of course, he lost his shotgun licenses. I mean, it is a huge blow for him. And he's someone who probably hasn't got the intellectual ability, let alone emotional, to control his own fate. But, I mean, what else can they do? I mean, he is an agent of the royal family's embarrassment, isn't he, to say the least?
So mentally, he's not doing great.
No. And never has, except he was shouting at people. I remember when I wrote The Rebel Prince, someone told me they'd been to Buckingham Palace and all they could hear was Andrew shouting down the corridor, this huge booming voice.
Yeah.
And in my book, I've got a story which hasn't been picked up, but I think it's actually indicative of Andrew. He was in Warsaw as a trade representative and was addressing a bunch of British businessmen, a large lunch. And the deputy ambassador came in to want to tell him that he was urgently wanted on the phone. Now, the deputy ambassador had a club foot, which was very noticeable. Okay. He had a huge physical deformity. And Andrew screamed across the room at him, "What the are you cripple doing coming to and interrupting me?"
Wow.
I mean, that was unbelievable. And that is the way that Andrew behaved. He was really shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking, selfish, stupid man. And landed himself with problems, I mean, of his own making.
Well, Andrew Loney told us that many stories about Andrew using hookers and bringing them through the palace and going on official government business and having British ambassadors procure him sex workers. Is that commonly known amongst the royals? Were they aware of this kind of behaviour?
I think they probably would have been told it because I think it was reported back by the embassies. I think probably they tried to control him. But as I say, I mean, he had a hold over them. First of all, the Queen couldn't control him. She was an old woman by then. Charles was the only other person who might have tried. But beyond that, it was impossible. And, the whole way the royal family works is through their advisors. You have, obviously, the palace of private secretaries. Then you have got the cabinet officers in Downing Street. And then you have the Prime Minister. Well, if you've got a series of weak Prime Ministers, under their own cosh, their own problems, whether it's Boris or May or whoever, and you have a succession of private secretaries who increasingly are not very able, and you don't have continuity in the cabinet office, you begin to have this sort of flotsam. You have this sort of there's not a tradition, there's not an establishment.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is exactly the problem that Britain faces at the moment, that we are floating rather than steered in a particular direction.
Let's talk about Fergie, Sarah Ferguson. How is she going to survive? Because I'm told she's got no savings, she's got no income now. So how is she going to live?
Well, I think she has some loyal friends.
Okay.
I think there are people who will look after her. But she clearly is battered. She clearly hasn't got her. But of course, both she and, funny enough, with Meghan too, they have one huge potential money earner, and that's the book.
Yeah.
I mean, the memoirs. And the thing about these memoirs is that you don't have to tell the truth. You can lie, you can make up what you like, and no one's really going to do, which is what Harry discovered. And Fergie, I'm sure that is the threat. I'm sure that she'll be given enough money to keep her quiet by some royal source, just to make sure that she doesn't write the book, because that is we've seen now with Harry's book the damage that can do. We've seen with the Sussexes Netflix series, which caused enormous damage, as did the Oprah Winfrey interview across the whole world. And so I'm sure they're making sure that she has enough money to stay quiet.
Should Beatrice and Eugenie publicly come out and say we're washing our hands of our parents if they want to try and survive the future cull?
I hope they wouldn't do that. They're terrible to denounce your parents.
Even if your dad was friends with a Notts?
No, I think that's right. But I mean, in the end, there's no need. They're not going to, they have no role in the royal family. They wanted one, and they're not going to get it clearly now. I think that they should never encourage children to denounce their parents unless they really are guilty of far worse crimes.
Okay. Now, all the years you've been writing these books and doing these exposés, have you ever had people from the royal family or anyone from that circle threaten you and say to you, we're going to take this away from you, we're going to make sure you never work again, anything like that? Because I've always thought they're something quite mafiosa-esque about them.
Well, not by the royal family. I can think of a lot of other people who threatened me. Maxwell fired, Branson, all of them, Ritz, and much worse.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing I don't get from the royal households is the cooperation that others get because I don't sing their song. Mm-hmm. And the whole point about royal writers, on the whole, they write well, but they're writing what they're told to write.
Yeah, propaganda.
Propaganda. Otherwise, they're not admitted into the magic circle. So I'm barred from the circle, but I get my information from those who are not part of them.
Okay. Listen, Tom Bauer, author of Betrayal, thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely fascinating.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you enjoyed that very special episode of the Daily Expresso. Betrayal, the link is in the bio. Click it. It's a fantastic read. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the hype button. Bye-bye.